Awesome. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to talking further, learning more. It's a little different than some of the local business agency owners that we usually go through, and that's my experience in my world. And yeah, it can be a bit of can be fun sometimes. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Yeah,
live on the page. I am sharing out to the group. Go ahead, you can keep talking.
No worries. So we've been talking for a quick minute. Nick, did you want to say something?
Oh no, I was wait. Do you say we're live, boss?
Oh, dude, why? It's like you're 50 feet away from your mic, man.
Is it? All right, let's move the mic then. Let's see. What about now? Is that better? Is that good?
Yes.
So how'd you get into this world, Steph?
So I started off, I wanted to grow my Etsy shop. So I started off selling jewelry in 2009, and Etsy is kind of like a smaller version of Shopify, but it was all handmade things. So I was growing my Instagram account. I was growing in groups on Facebook when groups had just kind of started out at that point. And I found that I was really passionate about growing my following, and I had a lot of people asking me how to do the same thing for their local businesses and online shops. So I started learning more, and I noticed that I was getting retargeted by course creators, and I started watching those webinars and workshops and kind of got sucked into the whole vortex that is, courses and all that stuff, as you guys probably have realized that yourself. So
I scrolled through my feed and everyone made $48,116.43 last week. Like that's
exactly, and that's exactly how I felt. I was like, oh, I need this Pinterest course. Oh, I need to learn how to like have my Instagram all pretty. So that's kind of how that started. And then I came across one webinar that really changed the game for me, and it was how to become a social media manager. And that's my introduction to my online business. So I figured, I already knew all this stuff about how to grow my YouTube because I had a YouTube channel as well. I had 2 shops at this point when I came across this webinar. So I was like, well, I already have all this experience. Might as well get paid for it and actually do it for other people. So once I set my mind to that, and once I had kind of a clearer picture of what my business was going to look like and not kind of like throwing things against the wall anymore, I set my agency live. So I started my social media management agency, and within the second day, I got my first client. And that was kind of an amazing moment, as you guys have probably experienced as well. What happened was I had a full intention of what I was going to do. I put my brand out there, my new agency. I changed everything on all my social media profiles. And like I said, the second day I was reached out by the man that became my first client. And he's like, wow, and these are his words. He was like, wow, this is like the heavens opened up and like you just came and it says social media manager on your profile, and that's exactly what I needed for my brand. I just didn't know where to find one. And it's crazy that you connected with me because this is LinkedIn. I won't be like shady and not tell you where it was. But it was on LinkedIn, and he was like, do you want to talk? So, the next day we set up a meeting. I was working at this company in the middle of Manhattan, New York City. So I went to Penn Station, which was super, super crowded and noisy with like all the announcements that go on. And I had like a piece of paper in my hand just shaking because this was my first discovery call, strategy call. Yeah. And as soon as like we said hi, we did the report talk. We were like, how's the weather in New Jersey and blah, blah, blah. Like I just put the paper down, and within 10 minutes we were laughing and I had a sale, and that was my first client. So kind of tying it back to how I started out with not knowing what to do, not knowing where I belonged in the world, and I realized what my skill was, what I was good at, and put it out there and made some money out of it. So that's kind of where the roads have led me to now. Yeah.
I love it. We're probably gonna have to have you repeat all of that you just said, but we'll make it go. No, but I love hearing it. That's so cool. And how long ago? What's the timeline on that?
So that was a year ago now, where I've kind of been doing this whole business.
Cool. All right, so we're going live.
Penn Station. How do you have a conversation in Penn Station? It's a fucking mess.
Oh, it was the worst. It was like hobos were next to me. Like it was like a little wait area, and it was just terrible.
Yeah,
I
right
mean,
by
I've had it.
in that little section right by the bathrooms, all the homeless guys sleep.
Yeah. So it was actually by the LIRR station, like the waiting room.
Yeah. That's what I'm
I
talking
was,
about. There's like a police booth there. And there's like a
yeah,
waiting.
exactly. Exactly. That's where I was. I was like in the back and like people were sleeping. I was like, oh my God. But that was actually the best place because after that, like the other calls I've had, it was like on the street. So like I'm, Skyping and people were like, what the hell? Like I could have had my phone stolen. It could have been a worse scenario, but.
Working while you're doing these calls, you were working a full-time job in town, you said?
Yeah, so I was working a full-time job. I set my hours on my calendar like for lunchtime. So I would take my laptop to Panera. I would have my sales conversations. I didn't give a crap if anyone was watching me. And then I also had times where it was like 10 p.m. and I was just drained from working, a 12-hour day. Now I'm doing sales conversations. But I did what I had to do, and it led me to now quitting my job. So this is my now second week, working full time at my business. So it's been a really great journey just to see kind of transition out.
Wait, right now is your second week?
Yeah, now it's like the third week at this point, but
Yeah, congrats. That's so
thank
awesome.
you.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so should we?
That's a big shift from going to working full-time. I mean, I've never had a full-time quote-unquote real job. I've always been a business owner. So, but it's like a scary thing from what people say, right? It's like, hey, this is my security. This is what I'm doing. But it's interesting how you took that time, like, hey, I took my lunchtime and this time after to start building the business. So how has it changed for you and your workflow and your process to be able to have that full time to dedicate to your business?
Well, the mentality that I had was I'm doing so well working a 9 to 5 and being swamped and always being stressed out. I might as well just take the jump and see how it goes and transition that. So it's been really great. I landed a really huge client 2 days ago, so it like bounced me back up and super excited about that. But like the transition work wise, it's been tough. I'm not gonna lie, because you're used to having like a boss and they walk around and micromanage you and check up on you and need things by certain deadlines. But as your own boss, it's like you have to be your own manager. You have to like check on yourself. And I did a Facebook Live in my group earlier where I talked about the productivity plan. I just have it here, where I write the 3 things that I need to do that day and really hold myself to that and set parameters like how long is it going to take me to actually do this thing, and actually check myself off at the end of the night to make sure that I did it. So it's a little bit different, but I think having those strategies in place and those check marks and benchmarks really help you kind of keep that in mind and keep you going throughout the day.
That's huge. I want to jump on that for, everyone's here and a lot of people who are watching, all 6 people, are, no, we know we're going to get a lot more people watching, are, in that spot of like making the leap or just getting started. And sometimes you just got to go all in. Like I have tremendous respect for you doing it while you're working a full-time job. I took a little different approach. I just quit and I lived off gambling money. So like I would work on building my agency every morning and then I would gamble every night. All bankroll that I charged on a credit card. It wasn't even cash that I had in hand. Sometimes you just really got to take a risk and burn the boats. Like we have a huge picture back there of burning boats back, and it's
That's
literally
awesome.
our saying in this, my bracelet right here. It's burn the fucking boats and you'll take the island. If you want to take the island, burn the boat. Sometimes you just got to go all in, because if you give yourself no choice but to succeed, you're typically going to succeed. And so I love hearing that, love hearing stories. I'm then glad to see you getting going and jumping in. And congrats on the big client. You said a big client a couple days ago?
Yeah, it's been pretty awesome. And she came from my group, so that kind of ties into the personal branding and making sure that you're staying visible. You're having a content strategy, so you're not just like throwing quotes up and hoping that someone's like going to realize how awesome you are just based off like a couple quotes that you throw up in your group. But it's really having an intention and realizing that there's a strategy behind what people are doing. The big dogs that are like 70,000 in their group and all that, they really took the time and put a strategy behind what they're putting out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you continue to grow, and then you've got a good brand, and look at that, you're getting clients from it. That's exciting.
For sure. Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and I'm not sure when we started recording or going live, but
Am I welcome to the page? But we are live right now, so we're going.
okay. So um, going back to not knowing kind of the place, like I didn't have a group not too long ago. I think it's been like 3 months, but I knew that I wanted to speak to people that had the same like ideas that I did, versus having like a generic, like anyone who has a heartbeat come in this group. Because it's great to have a large number of followings. It's, it does convert, but having it more niched down, I think would be the best approach where the person that's coming in and they look at maybe the keywords of your group, they know exactly what the group is about. And if they join, then they have more to contribute. They get more out of it. The videos are more geared toward what they need. And that's exactly why you would get clients from the groups that you have. So if you have like a mom group that does yoga and they need to have someone that makes a meal plan for them, that's super niche down, and there's going to be no surprise that if you put out a course that does just that, you're going to have a higher conversion rate than just like having a random group, if that makes any sense.
No, I totally get it. So I know I'm not sure when it got cut off either, but let's talk a little bit about, some of the branding, some of the things that, you do for, well, actually, first, let's talk about getting clients. That's always everyone's favorite thing here. It sounds like you got a little bit different strategy than, running over the pavement and cold calling everyone all day and plowing through doors. So I would love to hear about that. You mentioned LinkedIn earlier. If you can talk a little bit about your client getting strategy and bring a new idea to, the group, that'd be awesome.
Yep. So with that client, I was really present on LinkedIn for putting up my profile funnel. So profile funnel basically means having that first point of contact with whoever is coming into your sphere, coming into knowing your brand and who you are, having an introduction of what it is that you do. So when I was a social media manager, I said, Stef Negrin, social media manager. I had my summary that listed out keywords and listed out what their call to action was. So visit my services page to know more about what I do, or download this freebie to get on my mailing list and provide value thereafter. So that was my profile funnel for LinkedIn, and that really worked for him because he was able to see not only do I provide content strategy, I provide branding, I let you know exactly what the tips are for you to actually get clients for your business. So he was intrigued by that, and he needed someone to be proactive and actually monitor his Twitter and his Facebook and all the social media platforms that I ended up working on for him. So having that for your own business, whatever it is that you do. So if you're a Facebook ads manager, mention that on your Facebook and your LinkedIn, because those are two key areas where your ideal clients are going to be looking at. So if I, let's say, come across your page, Nick, and you're a Facebook ads manager, but you don't kind of say that anywhere. So I don't know if that's the situation. I'm not sure if I'm calling you out, but
No, it is.
But if I were to, look at your page and it doesn't say anywhere that that is what you do, and I actually need that service, you kind of just lost a potential client with that scenario. So I've received people that maybe I comment on groups, and I'm not saying anything revolutionary. I'm not saying anything like that is groundbreaking, but I might say like LOL and write a comment. They're lurkers out there, and there's no shame in lurking because I do it too. And they just hover over your picture and they see a cover photo and they see your short bio. And right there is the biggest like real estate that a lot of people don't use. Maybe it's like a picture of their dog instead of like a call to action. But if you look at my page, and if you want to hover over to look at it as an example, I have two things. I have my cover photo, which says join my Facebook group, which is Funnel and Grind, and you will join a bunch of entrepreneurs that are on there as well, like-minded individuals. So I find that as soon as I get a friend request, like I'll write something on our Facebook group, not revolutionary, I'll get a friend request and someone joining my Facebook group like within seconds. So I know it's working, and I know a lot of people have come because I have like tracking on there. People have come from just my cover photo. Another thing that I would say has helped me is having my business page in my bio. So if you have like, I'm a client acquisition strategist at Stef Negrin, it's linked there. So it's not like a dead zone area. It's full of links that you continue clicking around and jumping to see what the next thing is that I have. So a couple tips right there.
So you got funnels everywhere, huh?
Yeah, funnels on funnels.
Okay. That's awesome. So are you strategically entering certain groups? I know we had talked a little bit earlier about niche. Talk a little bit about, who you typically help. And then as far as strategic, you mentioned, the comments you're doing aren't revolutionary, but I mean, are you strategically making comments? Are you strategically proactively going after people? Are you paying for any type of leads or ads? Are you waiting? Are people just kind of coming to you?
So I know before we got on the call, you mentioned like you saw me in groups and stuff like that, which I thought was funny. But like 6 months ago, I was not strategically, but I was answering a lot of questions. This was before I like realized there was a system to this. So I was answering a lot of questions in this huge group that I think a lot of us are a part of. And I was getting a lot of friend requests. So I think I got about 100 within that time period. But from there, I garnered relationships. Like it wasn't calculated in any sense, but I garnered relationships. I got partnerships from that. I've been in people's courses because of that. I've met them in person. So I've met a lot of these people in person and hosted masterminds with them. So it's really about cultivating community and relationships. I didn't have an agenda and I still don't. It's really about building that community. So there was no like strategy back then, but what I would do differently now is really be visible and having that profile funnel like we mentioned and giving value in the form of video. So I think video is definitely the key player. We're on a video right now. So people know, like, and trust you, because if I'm just saying all day long, like, I'm awesome, like, you should buy my course, like, I'm the shit, no one's going to know because they don't know, the human side of you. They don't know your story. They don't know, how you treat people. So having that video and having some valuable tips for people to see has really helped me as well, gain clients just by being myself and just by being present and not kind of faltering. When people ask me questions, I'm always there. I answer them, and I make sure that people don't walk away confused. Like they walk away with some actionable ideas that they could implement.
So as a branding person, you don't think it'd be smart for me to make my tagline on Facebook just "I sell shit" and just wait for people to come in and just start bragging?
One of my mentors actually did do that, and like he's super badass, and he doesn't care what people say or think about him. So you definitely could say, I make you more money by, XYZ.
Oh,
and
shit.
people are like, oh, wow. Yeah.
No, I'm half joking. But so yeah, talk a little bit about, because a lot of times, a lot of our talk is focused around local business, agency growing, local business lead generation, because that's what Balls and I do. That's, all the world I live in. Talk a little bit about what you do for clients, how you charge them, how you go about your discovery call and sales process once you do get someone hooked up in one of your funnels and reaching out to you.
So what I do is I help out service-based entrepreneurs, so coaches, consultants, virtual assistants, etc. So someone who is providing a service. So basically you guys would fall under that category as ad managers. And what I do is I establish exactly what it is that you need to be putting out into the world. So we establish who your target market is, what your value ladder might look like. And a value ladder, for those of you that might not know, it's you would imagine a step ladder, and you would see like your freebie as the baseline. So someone that doesn't know you, they need something that's $0 for them to invest in. So it's a cheat sheet PDF, maybe an audio training, something that does not cost anything for them in exchange for an email. So what that does is it has the person kind of coming into your sphere, knowing who you are, what you do, and you providing them value in exchange for that email. And then what we do is establish what your offerings are. So we all have offerings, we all have packages. So I spoke to someone yesterday who was selling himself really short, and he was selling this training with 15 entrepreneurs. They were all giving tips, and he was going to give them, he was going to give that away for $15. And I was like, so let me get this straight. You're selling something that if I listen to it and I make $1,000 a month, I just paid you $15 for that one thing. So like we kind of strategized, and I told him like what the new pricing should be, how he should put it together, how he should launch it. So it's really about the strategy behind launching is what it comes down to, and how to get that client. So the way I price that, currently I have coaching set up. So I do the done for you part as well. You know, I'm in that same circle where I do it for local businesses, but I'm really trying to focus on helping entrepreneurs that don't know where to go, because we have shiny object syndrome. We need the website, we need the logo, we need to be on YouTube, Pinterest, Twitter, Snapchat. So my job is to get you clear on who your target market is, then what your package is, what you're selling, and then put it out into the world. So how are we going to do that? The strategy behind it. You don't have to be everywhere at once. You could really focus on one thing and grow it. And if you want to do YouTube, you could do that. You could incorporate that. It doesn't have to be difficult. There are ways to have it automated, and there's systems for that. So having kind of the step-by-step guideline that I didn't have when I first started, I was like a deer in headlights when I first started, and I wish there was something out there like that for me back then. But I'm trying to teach people how to do that for themselves and not have to spend a lot of money doing it, because I think that's the biggest setback that people have. You know, they're working their 9-to-5s, they have college debt, they have car loans, mortgages, and it's really going to be an investment for people that are going to be putting their energy towards this, whether it be time investment and money investment, right? So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell.
Okay. So I want to make sure I'm clear on it. So you do a lot of consulting. You say, hey, this is what you should put together. You should build a funnel that looks like this. You should build a video that looks like this. You should place it here, and basically give an overview. Do you also, I know you mentioned done for you services for local business, but do you also build content, build videos, and basically do that on a deeper level for the entrepreneurs who are looking, or the service-based groups who are looking for more clients? Or is it mainly just coaching them what they should do?
Well, how do I say it? I have done that for service-based providers as well. I've worked for marketing agencies and have done the same kind of scenario where I have coached them on what they should do as far as videos, because they record the videos, and then I tell them exactly how to put it together and do the actual funnel and building out the email sequences, which is another big aspect of it as well. So how I start off is the discovery call, and I think that's how a lot of people start off, is establishing what it is the person needs, and based off what they need, whether they don't have the time to do the funnels or the email strategies building out, they don't have time to actually learn Facebook ads and all those things, then we discuss one package. If they feel like they're comfortable doing the funnel and the ads themselves, they just need to know how and the why behind it, then we help with that scenario. So I don't like list out prices on my website or kind of say those things, because it could be different for each scenario. So that's why the discovery call is really essential, to kind of have those conversations. And maybe they don't realize that they need email, because a lot of people kind of see email as like the back burner, but that's actually such a huge part of people's funnel. It's the invisible funnel. It's what happens in the back end. So I help them come to the realization that there's a whole bigger pie. There's a lot of things that kind of encompass what a funnel looks like. So the phone call is really essential to kind of dig deep and figure that part out.
That's awesome. Yeah, real quick on the email. I've been going back and forth with that a lot recently. I was having a good thought and conversation about it. Because they're talking about Messenger taking over, and a lot of those things. There's a lot of talk about that. Email, especially in the B2B space, I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon. It might. There's a lot of spam and B2C things like that, but email B2B, like, you're always going to want something that separates your work and your life that you can reach out to. So email marketing is something that we're actually internally working on really improving, because we don't do very much of it right now. And really getting into, and I think it's going to be around for a while as well. Like, I'm not worried about Messenger ads taking over B2B email marketing or anything. So I just
Yeah,
wanted
for
to throw
sure.
that in. That's just a random thought I was literally just talking about yesterday.
For sure. I think that I don't think Facebook is going anywhere anytime soon, but I hear all the time that people's accounts are getting shut off and their ads stop working or what have you. But I feel like you have ownership of email. So like you said, and I 100% agree, that's not going anywhere. And I feel like even though the conversion rates are kind of like sinking and people aren't opening their emails anymore, it's still important to have that as a backup. You know, you don't want, like one day, and this happened a couple months ago, like someone's group got shut down and they had like 15,000 people that they didn't have email records for. So like that's a huge thing that we need to keep in mind of as business owners, that we should really be keeping email in the forefront for that backup. Now, on the topic of messenger bots and ads and things like that, I do like them just because I send out my live stream notifications and they get like an 80%, 90% open rate, which is really great because email is getting like maybe 20, which I'm trying to improve as well. But having that kind of not overtake email exactly, but really reinforce all the marketing that you're doing, I think would be super important to kind of have in the background on your to-do list.
Yeah, and a couple things about branding, and we've actually had some big lessons on this. We spend almost 6 figures a month on Facebook, so we got tons of different campaigns, things going on. I remember at Funnel Hacking Live, for anyone who went there, Russell Brunson was talking about getting slapped by Mark Zuckerberg. And we have had so many problems the last 3 weeks with Facebook, with ads shutting down for no reason, pages unpublishing. I mean, it's happening everywhere. And my team physically can't monitor every single campaign all day. It's unsustainable because we run 50 campaigns at once and they're just turning off randomly, and it's not until we're like, wow, we haven't got any leads in 2 days here. So I love the idea of having our approach about LinkedIn, email, branding, because it's something we all need to think about long term. No, I don't think Facebook's going anywhere. Yes, it's going to work, but it's the overall marketing strategy that's really important, and having multiple streams coming in from multiple different areas, because we've gotten a taste of that. We have 2 different Facebook reps. One of them hasn't emailed me back. I emailed her 4 times on Saturday night in a row with just screenshots and just angry because we were supposed to have like a higher level one now because we spend a very good amount with Facebook. Maybe not to them. They made like 6 billion, but whatever. Having these backup strategies is so important. And that's why it's also so important to learn what makes marketing work. Like, all Facebook is a platform to get a message out. It used to be direct mail, it used to be TV, radio. Those things still work today, but it's only about the platform. So I love what you're talking about as far as being in multiple places at once and being able to grow from all that, because at some point Facebook ads are going to go up. The costs are. They went up a lot the last 2 weeks of June. I just read an article today about messenger ads coming in, and again, Facebook was talking about almost reaching ad load. Nothing to be super scared of. AdWords has been around for 20 years and it's fine and still growing. But yeah, things are going to get tougher, so we got to get smarter and better and be in more places at once looking for stuff.
For sure. Ball's been quiet.
Yeah, Balls, I've been stealing the show, man. I guess got lots of questions for you, Steph, but Balls, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I wanted you to kind of go and talk about how would somebody go about setting up that personal funnel, right? We spoke a little bit about the Facebook and like kind of looking at that stuff, but like give us like an overall strategy that you would give to an agency type client like ours.
Yeah, I was just saying, literally, let's just use a local business agency and build something from there. So that way we're not working with coaches or people who have very different product offerings. The standard local business agency, just give us an outline. I think that's a great question.
So it would work kind of the same. It would just be a little bit more different. So your local chiropractor, I would still say that they should have, their cover photo be something related to their business. Because if I were just to come across their profile and see that there's no branding, there's nothing related to what they do, then I would just maybe walk off and not look at it again. But if, let's say I look at, let's say his name is Charles, and Charles has this cover photo that is a picture of his chiropractic office, and he's showing a couple people getting adjusted, and there's a call to action to book an appointment or to have a $27 adjustment x-ray, and I'm forgetting what the third thing I always include in my offers, but you know what I'm saying, like a $27 adjustment.
Exam, report a finding.
Yeah, exactly.
We all know the ad.
The standard ad that we use. So I would put that in there, and that way, if I'm just walking along and I'm lurking and looking at people's profiles, that might catch my attention and say, wow, my back does hurt. I am using Icy Hot at the moment, and I could use a adjustment for $27. Then, you just got a client, and you didn't have to waste any money. You didn't have to put it towards ads or anything like that. That was just free advertising, basically. So that would be my kind of flip on that. There's no cheat sheet, there's no free strategy call or anything like that we use in the coaching world. So it would kind of be a little bit different, but still in the same kind of category of what I would do. Then on the flip side, you would still have your bio right below the picture. There's a featured photo that you could use as well as additional real estate. So some people use their featured photo to put pictures of their husband and their honeymoon and dogs and kids and stuff like that. I know I did. But instead, what you could do is have just one photo. It just looks really big underneath your bio. And again, use that as branding and use that as some information that could lead to a potential sale.
See, I don't even have a featured photo. I see it saying, I have featured photos all the time, but I never do it.
I don't even know what that means. But
you'll notice it now.
No, I do think it's a great idea, and I'm actually probably going to update my cover photo. So already learning stuff. That's awesome. Go ahead, Balls. What do you got, man?
Let's see. Does anybody have any questions before I ask them?
Yeah, any questions? This is some great stuff to think about, guys.
Let me check the group.
Okay. So, Stef, someone who is getting started, ready to go. I know you've talked about some branding. What would you do to get your first client? This is always a hot topic on here. I know we talked a little about sales, but let's say you had no clients right now and you had to quit your job. What's the first thing you would do to go out and get a client? Because it definitely you're going a different approach than that I would take, things like that.
So I'll tell you my situation, and then I'll tell you what I would do differently.
Yep.
And I hear myself.
I hear that too.
So what I've done and what I did for my first client, I actually have a 3-part series that I talked all about this. But the thing that I did was I was on LinkedIn and I did my profile funnel. So that was the number one thing that I would suggest people to start off with. Profile funnel is key. You want to tell people exactly what it is you do. So let's say you friend request all your old classmates, right? Then people from your school are going to be like, oh, wow, I'm actually like, my dad is a dentist. Like, this is crazy because I actually was talking to him about him needing social media, which has happened to me as well. You will find clients in the weirdest places. I actually was getting my back cracked and I was talking to my chiropractor about her business, and she was like, that's what you do? I had no idea. And we talked about starting a business, like doing the ads for her. And she was like, oh, so do I give you money now? I'm like, not when I'm getting my back cracked. Like, I'm literally on the table talking about this with you. And like, she was already about to hand me your credit card. So, don't be ashamed or afraid to talk about what it is that you do and have that profile funnel. That would be my step number one. Then if you're, still not getting clients after that, after talking about it to people, after your profile funnel, I would make a video because, like we mentioned before, video is huge. And the way that I've gotten my higher end clients is from providing free value. And they see that you know what you're talking about, you know what it is that you do, you have experience, you have results. Clients are raving about you at this point. So when you do video, you could show those things off and you could have a call to action at the end of the video and say, if you need any assistance with your ads or if you like what I'm saying, PM me, we could schedule a call, and then that's it. You don't have to go into like this huge presentation, this huge webinar. I've closed clients just from a simple like live stream. So it's definitely easy to do. And if you're just starting out, I would just start with those key principles.
Wow. See, I love hearing that that's actually been working for you, because I was one of the people who was very hesitant to make it known what I'm doing. I'm not big on, promoting myself and, that type of stuff. I don't even know if my Facebook profile, I think it might mention that, I have a company, but it certainly has no posts of me talking about it. but it's something that I've been ringing in my head to continue to grow and promote myself and change things up on LinkedIn. So I love hearing from someone who's recently been doing it and seeing clients come from it, because it's a completely different approach than what I would be used to as far as, just picking up a phone and dialing or cold emailing someone getting in. And I think that a lot of people would love to be able to attract people in. I mean, that's always the goal, right? Getting people to reach out to you, contact you. It makes it such an easier call, sale, everything there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, it's been really awesome. I haven't had to do any blasts because I used to do email blasts, and I haven't done a cold call yet. That may come later, but I haven't had to yet. I used to do door-to-door sales, so I think that's where my sales background kind of came from. But I only did it for like 3 days because it was brutal.
3 days?
But, yeah, and they weren't paying me because I didn't sign like the stupid contract waiver thing. So I literally sold paintball activity tickets and makeup.
What?
I was walking, and I don't know if you know this area, Balls, but I was walking down Babylon, Long Island, and Brooklyn, New York. So those are the two areas that I would walk around, and they literally would drop you off. What was that?
Babylon and Brooklyn are so far apart from each other.
Yeah, it was like two separate days.
Oh.
The office was in Great Neck, so it was like in between the two. But they would literally drop you off, like they would carpool everyone there and drop you off. They gave you like your coordinates, like what blocks you were allowed to like walk through, and I would just walk and stop people in the street, and that was pretty much my job for 3 days because I hated it. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. But from there, I learned like the techniques. I'm like, you have a quick minute to talk, and I sold this middle-aged man. He was like in his 40s. I sold him 3 makeup kits, and like I literally had makeup kits like along my arms, like just walking up to people. He was like, yeah, I need 3. I'm like, okay. I didn't judge, but I just gave it to him. But yeah, that was kind of my background. But it's so much easier to be able to attract someone like you mentioned because they know your story from video. They've probably watched all of your videos because that's what happened to my client. She was like, I've been in your group for a while, and she was already familiar with my story. And she was actually telling me like, I know you're really big on niching down. And I was like, I am. And she knows that because she saw that video that I talked and I ranted about this thing. So it's really cool to have, people already know who you are and know, like, and trust you. And it makes the sale a lot easier at the end. You're not like convincing them or begging them to close the sale essentially.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like you're doing the typical trial, and then lead closing that's out there. Talk a little bit about, your sales process. Do you have long-term contracts? I know everything sounds like it's very customizable and very different why you don't do pricing. But yeah, a little bit about the contracts, expectations, how you set that, and then onboarding new clients.
So it's funny that you mentioned the trial part because I did do that when I started off because, when we do start off, I don't recommend like go and jump out and say like, I charge $5,000, but I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? So, I did do the trial. I did do all that. What I found, though, was maybe my approach was wrong, but I was getting clients who stole my work. And, we could argue about, like, how I went about the ads manager and all that stuff. I probably did it wrong. But I got clients that stole my work, were unhappy. The second day I ran something, he was like, I only got 7 leads in 1 day. I'm like, it's day 1. Like, your pixel hasn't been seasoned. Like, you have 0 people on your, like, Facebook page. Like, we just started it. Like, what do you want? Then he was like, I'm like, you're not paying me. I don't understand why you're upset. It's 7 leads that you need to call right now instead of, like, you complaining about it. So I was getting those kind of clients. What happened differently was, I got some successes, and once I got that, I was able to say no to the clients that I didn't like. And I would see red flags immediately from the conversations that we would have, and I just knew that if we worked together, it wouldn't be a good situation. So I was able to confidently say no and increase my prices. And the way that I established contracts and things like that, establish your work hours. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we are open to working, 13 hours a day, 7 days a week, and being available at all times. And I felt like I was getting burnt out, not only working at a 9 to 5, but answering emails and calls at like 11 p.m. when we're in the same time zone. Like there's no excuse for you to be awake at this time emailing me. So establishing those establishing those things in the contract really set the tone. And there was one time I didn't do that, and it was like he would just call me without scheduling time. And I did the free trial with him with his hair salon, and he was like, "Oh, so we got our money back within the first week, and we got like 90 people that signed up and leads, but I'm not going to pay you yet until we do another free trial for this other thing." And I was like, "No, that doesn't work that way. Like, you can't just do another free trial for something else." And he was like, "All right, well, if we pay you, how much would it be?" And I was like, "Well," and I was like still lowballing myself. I was like, "Well, people charge $1,500, but you're a hair salon, so I understand, like, you don't have that kind of revenue coming in. You're not like a chiropractor or doctor. So I would charge you $500. He was like, "What? Like, that's too much money." I'm like, "Do you not understand I have a family and I have to eat and like pay my rent and stuff?" Like, so it was about attracting the right types of clients and figuring out what that actually meant, like reading the red flags, and setting up those parameters. Like, don't cheapen yourself, don't lowball yourself, because that's going to continue. You might think like, oh, the relationship will get better, and when we become a closer knit team, then they'll value you and they'll pay you your rightful dues. If someone is going to work for like below minimum wage, why would I be like, "Sure, here's like 25 an hour, like you deserve a bonus"? No one's going to do that. In a perfect world, sure, but it doesn't work out that way. So from the get-go, establish the correct pricing that makes you happy, because also when you don't value, like if you don't set the price at the right value, you're going to be resentful. You're going to need more clients to pay your bills, and that's going to equal to less time that you have to focus on your clients. So it's a lose-lose. You're losing on money and they're losing on service. So, pricing yourself at the right price is really key as well.
Couple of huge things there. Couple of thoughts. I loved how you're talking about. I love that the guy like the hair salon guy, because we've all ran across that type of thing, and I say it a lot on here. Don't take on the cheapest, worst clients. The people who want to underpay are usually the worst, because they're counting every dollar and they're miserable. And when it comes down to what you mentioned about, like, I've got a family, I've got kids. We had a guy on here it's been about a month or two now, who said one of the best things I've ever heard. And he mentioned he said this straight up in a one-on-one conversation with the business owner. He looked at him after the guy cheaped out on him and questioned his agency fee. He's like, "It's clear to me that you're the only person in this relationship who wants to make money." And that was like my favorite thing ever. Now I've just been waiting to say that to somebody at this point, because we know the ROIs we bring. And then another thing about positioning yourself and pricing, I still think we're underpriced. We've already raised our prices. We need to do it again. But one of our mentors, me and Ball's, John Lagar, said a brilliant thing and has a brilliant mindset. It's basically like, don't hang out with other online marketers. All you fuckers undervalue yourself. Get out of that world, because everybody's just trying to like lowball. And if you position yourself up front as a certain price and a certain brand and authority, then people will pay. They'll like it more. And the people who pay more typically pay more attention to the leads, do better, all that type of stuff. So those are some What's that?
Ones that pay you more don't bother as much either.
Oh, never. Hardly ever, unless you're really fucking up.
Like I have to talk more to clients that I charge less to than I charge more to.
Yeah,
Wow.
and that's always going to be the way, especially when you start digging into like $500 management fee clients and $500 ad spend. Those guys who are worried about their $1,000, like, that's not who people want to work with long term. Sure, if you need to get something under your belt and some confidence, but the reason why you want to get into this is so you can live a better lifestyle, because what is going to happen no matter what is you're going to be stressed. You're going to be thinking about your business 24/7. You don't have to be stressed, but you're going to be thinking about it 24/7. At least at a 9 to 5, you can leave and go home, leave it at work. But if you've got headaches and nightmares all day long, then you're basically just building yourself another job, especially if you're not getting paid. Like, you're just building yourself a job that's even worse and even more stressful. So that's so true. Cut through the bullshit. If someone's an asshole, get rid of them, get fired. We fired someone a couple weeks ago because they were being extremely rude to one of my staff members. It happened more than one occasion after I talked to them. Just complete assholes. And today we had I don't even want to talk about the message I got today about being threatened to be sued over something, but people can be jerks. They're just not worth it long term. Balls, did I send you that message?
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are some great points there, Steph. I love it.
Yeah, I've had to fire clients too, and actually I fired the hair salon guy. I was like, yeah, sure. And then I was like, as I'm saying that, I'm like, who can I refer him to? And I actually gave him to one of my accountability buddies, and they're still working together. I'm like, well, at least you establish yourself in the proper way, because I obviously didn't do that. It was funny because I don't want to say too much because I might like air out his dirty laundry, but when we first started working together, I was a social media manager, and he was already questioning like how high I was, and I was like charging, and I'll say the price what it was. It was $250 per platform per month to manage, and I was doing the content management. I was posting, I was responding to people. So that's a lot for that little. And he was like, all right, well, can I get like 5 platforms for $750? And I was like, well, okay. So I already like set the bar low, and I lowered it even more. And it just continued and continued for like half the year. And I was like, I'm not focusing on people that are paying me more money. I am not doing what lights me up anymore because I'm not excited about this anymore. Like I'm just repurposing content, and it's like boring to me at this point. So I was like, you know what, pass them off to the other person, and good luck with that. So that was my little rant.
Oh, I love it. It's so true. Don't undervalue yourself. Don't be afraid to say no and walk away. And guess what? Do you know how many times I've been asked in the last 3 months to lower our fee, or can we just get started here? And I'm like, no, I'm sorry. 95% of the people, and it's probably been about 10 people, have like, okay, let's do it. Let's go. If you hold strong, you hold firm, it's the confidence that comes out in what you have to offer in your service. And if you know you can do something for them, a lot of times they'll sign up. About 2 months ago, there was another person who was asking for another free trial. This was a good one. He's like, I think you need to do it again. We're going to do this. And I'm like, you know what? I can go right down the street and get a lot more from you. We're probably not a good fit. I said that like twice in a row. And then he's like, okay, well, here's my credit card. Boom. Still a client right now, And he's actually been a good client. But yeah, he was sometimes people try to hardball you. They try and push you around. Especially older business owners, if they're a little younger or whatever, they're always going to be trying and negotiating. I got one guy who calls himself the Priceline negotiator. Gives us a hard time every month. Today we got a referral from him. I know he's making big money. He's a great guy. We got a referral from him. The lady on the referral said that he's going to be a customer for life. He loves us, speaks so highly about everything. But every time we get on a call, he's always really nice. He's kind of a jerk, but he's just like kidding around, but he's always asking for more. We just have to push back. But then we hear the real story that he loves us. He loves everything we do. People are always going to try and haggle. It's business.
Yeah, I got one of those that haggled me. He haggled me down, and so here's the thing. Like, he haggled me down, but I told him 2,500, but I knew he was going to come back. And it's just management, no landing pages, nothing, just management. So he's given me, he haggled down to 1,500, which was kind of like where I was going to be anyway with him. And he's given me, I'm about to start a 4th campaign for him. So that's 1,500 times 4.
Money. That's crazy.
I like that. It's 6 grand.
He's a $6 grand a month client now.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And people will argue with your fees, a lot of that type of stuff. Never let somebody argue with your management fee if you know you're going to bring them results, ever. Always break it down. We have some guys who get hung up on agency fees. And I always explain it like, would you care if I was taking 99% agency fee and you got these results? Why are you hung up on that? The reason why we take the management fee is so that we can continue to improve our ads, run a business first and foremost. I'm very open with that with business owners a lot of times. Like, look, I can't put lights. I got to pay for employees. I have an office space I got to pay for. Don't ever back down. Always bring it back to the ROI that you can bring people, and most people will get over it. If you know you can bring them a massive ROI, then just stick to your guns.
And one thing I really learned from, doing sales conversations, it's like, how much is this one lead worth to you? Like, what's the lifetime value of this one client? So if you're a chiropractor, explain to them the value ladder. So yeah, you're going to maybe lose some money, giving them a $27 adjustment, x-ray, whatever. But you have to learn as the chiropractor to actually upsell. So my job is to bring them through the door because they wouldn't have come otherwise. But now you're going to say, yeah, now you have to come back 3 times a week. You know, the adjustments cost $49, times that by 3 times 4 per month, you know, and continue to see how long they can retain that client and explain that to them. So it's not just, oh, it's $1,000, but yeah, I know that I could bring you 50 clients, and each of those 50 have a lifetime value of X. So if you actually take that into consideration, my fee is minuscule versus how much I'm actually going to make you. So does that sound good? Then give me your freaking credit card. You know what I'm saying? Like,
What kind of card do you want to put that on? What kind of card?
right.
That's my favorite. What kind of card? What are we using today?
Master or Visa.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. It's so true. My whole sales process is walking them through and letting them come to the light bulb saying, wow, I can make XYZ dollars, you know, and letting them say it. I don't want to tell them what they are, you know, even though we're, like you mentioned earlier, we're extremely niche down. We don't even take on outside work 99% of the time. So I know all the numbers, but I like to have them say it through going through the process, because then they can get it and then they can picture it, and it makes the sale so much easier. And it comes down to, okay, when do we get started? What do we got to do?
Right.
You know?
For sure.
Balls, any questions, man?
Yeah, I want to get into the LinkedIn strategy.
Oh, so
Okay. Yeah.
the LinkedIn strategy, what has worked for me is keywords. So making sure that your profile has all the keywords in it, because people search and they'll type in Facebook ads, and lo and behold, if you have Facebook ads, you know, in your skill set or the title of your game or your summary, it will pop up in that area. So another thing that I would really recommend is having a 100% completed profile, because it actually boosts you up into the rankings. And I actually didn't have 100% currently, because I was transitioning between my full-time job and what I'm doing now. So it was like at 90%, and it shows you like you're almost there, like you just need to complete one last thing, and it'll show you what's left for you to do on your LinkedIn profile for it to be 100%. So that would be another thing. The way I found this client was I typed in owner, I typed in CEO, and I like connected with each one that fit into the categories that I was looking for. And then he reached out to me and said, you're exactly what I was looking for. When can we talk? I, you know, looked at your profile. I looked at your website because I had it in there, and I was saying all the right things that he needed. So that's how I attracted that client. But you did a little homework first, like you were connecting, you were visible, which comes back to the content strategy and all that stuff. So it's actually presenting yourself to someone, coming into their world, and then they're taking action on you because they've done their kind of digging and homework on you. So that's like the biggest thing that I've done on LinkedIn that has helped me out. I've actually gotten several clients that way. So he was just the first one that I've received. But after that, it just kept kind of flowing down from LinkedIn.
That's awesome. So are you writing your own content and publishing stuff on there too? Like are you involved in any groups on LinkedIn? I know that there's a huge potential of opportunity there. But I haven't spent that much time. Plus I don't ever want to write anything. Like I like to talk. I don't like to write. But yeah, what kind of stuff are you doing on there to stay engaged and get people, you know, what other things? Or are you writing your own content? I guess that's the main question.
So I was writing blogs, and it wasn't geared, so like this was my mistake. It wasn't geared towards clients. It was geared towards entrepreneurs. So that was kind of like my shift. But kind of looking back on it now, it's fine because that's who I'm targeting now anyway. But if I were to do it differently, in your case, you're an ads agency for local businesses, I would talk about the pros and cons of social media for local businesses. So you would talk about being on Facebook for a chiropractor. Be very specific to speak to them so they're interested in reading that article, is what I'm trying to say. And then as far as the groups, I haven't really done it correctly either. I'm about to. I'm starting my LinkedIn strategy all over again from a year ago, because that's when I was like really into it. But what I would do now for the groups is instead of being in entrepreneur groups, because that's what we're used to doing, we're used to going into these groups where there's like 15,000 other entrepreneurs doing the same exact thing, and we're trying to stand out, ironically. What I would do differently is go into the groups that you're trying to target. So again, with the chiropractors, go to their groups and put yourself in there and drop value bombs, and they'll come to you. So that's what I'm going to be doing differently now.
Okay. And are you outsourcing any of your work, or are you doing everything yourself right now? Do you have a team, any people you work with? I think you said we earlier.
So I had a VA who was doing the LinkedIn strategy for me. So she was connecting with people and sending them messages. So I was paying her $6 an hour because she's from the Philippines. But you could also get a VA. What was that?
It's expensive.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, because after that I hired someone for $3 an hour. So I had no idea. I found her on Facebook. I was like, oh, this is amazing. But then I was on the actual websites where they all come from. I was like, oh wow, I got gypped off, but that was fine. Learned my lesson. But she was doing that, and then I had a canned email that I would send, after they accepted my request, which now that was again a year ago. That has changed because now when you connect with someone, it's like an intro post that you could put now. So I would become more personalized and say, hey, I saw that we had mutual connections in common, and I wanted to communicate with like-minded individuals. If you don't mind connecting with me, I'd really appreciate it. Something more personalized versus I'd like to keep in touch and be generic. So what was that?
They never talk to them again. That's what happens. People connect on LinkedIn and they never message you.
Exactly, because they're all just spamming and clicking. I know I did it, so I couldn't really talk, but I would go 100 per hour. I just had my goals, and I was like, okay, 10 done, 10 done. And just keep going through each page and do that. So that's that. So I don't have a VA anymore, but that is something definitely that you could outsource and have someone else do, because it is time consuming to sit there and do that.
Yeah, definitely. And that's always whenever I've thought about this stuff in the past, when we were first getting started with the agency and I was beating my head around a bush, doing everything I could to not try and sit and make 120 cold calls a day, going to BNI groups, networking groups. We were trying to pay money for SEO, all kinds of random stuff. Whenever I would sit down and be okay, I'm going to work on LinkedIn today, there's just too much. And I'm I got mad ADD, so I was never able to set something up. But that's awesome that you've seen some success with it. Something that's been in the back of my brain, updating some of my profiles, my Facebook profile, my LinkedIn profile, really letting the world know, what it is we do and what we've got going on over here. Because we make people money. I have no problem promoting it, letting people know. Our average guy probably makes 10 to 21 ROI depending on, where they are in the country.
Mm-hmm. So what model do you guys do? You work with chiropractors and all sorts of different kind of niches?
No, so we work with very specific medical niches, super, super hardcore niche down. And we only do Facebook for them now, a full lead generation, lead conversion system. And we charge $3,000 a month. That's what it starts with us to get going. We got a 60% management fee, and then it scales up from there. We've got guys spending $20,000, $30,000 a month who, we still get that 60% management fee. So it's really nice because it scales up the whole time. It's not we only take one cut and then grow. And then, we've got two account managers, one more starting Monday. And then there's about 5 other people. We got 2 sales reps, and then fulfillment, and then myself and my business partner Ben, who I don't know if you've seen him around. It's his desk back here. We share the bigger office in the place. That's a bit about what we've got.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. Looking to expand though and continue growing. We've got some pretty cool stuff in the background. Want to get into some of the more some courses for local businesses and really get some more reoccurring 100% profit where you build it once and you get paid over and over again.
Oh yeah, that's going to be key.
Yeah, it boosts in addition to the agency. We want to grow a massive agency. It's a very sellable asset. It's worth a lot long term, and we've been able to, get well above 6 figures a month now. And so just continuing to build that. But I love the idea of what you're talking about with the courses. And I'm actually making a shift right now on working and wanting to get more content out, more promotion, especially since I have a lot of people who can help and take care of a lot of the day-to-day. So this way I can really work on that long-term ROI stuff, which is why it's been a great conversation. I'm literally going to go update my cover photo like after we're done. Like already pick something up.
That's awesome. I'm glad that it's helped.
Yeah, it's just so cool to hear that you're attracting people on LinkedIn as well too. I mean, I've always known it's a huge resource, so that's great news because we haven't talked a whole lot about LinkedIn on this channel before.
Matt asked, how many clients did you get on LinkedIn? Through LinkedIn.
About 6 now.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
That's awesome. And so when you provide the consulting for people, do you have contracts? I mean, is it like a one and done thing? Do you do like a monthly check-in with them? I'm trying to wrap my head around the best way so you can keep reoccurring with them. If you just say, hey, go do this, and then they do it, do they still talk to you? Do you still continue to go on? I know it sounds like you do a lot of different things, but.
So what I did with the Facebook ads clients, I was doing it for 3 months minimum. So I knew that I had them for 3 months. And I fulfilled, I did my analytical reports after that, and there was accountability at the end. So it wasn't just like, all right, I'll see you in 3 months and we'll talk later. Like I actually gave them feedback and would check in during the week and see like, okay, did you talk to all these leads? Because as we know, we give the leads and sometimes they don't follow through. So there's a little bit of coaching that comes in play with that. A lot. There should be a whole other fee for that. But then for the coaching part, I have it more based on like a 6-week program. So, well, the coaching client that I have currently, she wanted to condense it. So we're having like 2-3 calls per week, 6 calls total. But it's more kind of fast paced because she definitely wanted to kind of ramp up and figure everything out in a shorter amount of time. But what my goal is to have it for 6 weeks. So we really have time to like key in on everything and make sure each step is understood and built out properly. So that's currently how I have that built out. Then kind of like the value ladder for me would be to, if we're done with the 6 weeks, how I make revenue still is if you still need additional coaching, you could definitely sign up for another package and maybe have like as need basis. So it's not like tied down to a specific number. It could just be like per call whenever you need help.
So when you have a discovery call with someone, I'm assuming you don't pitch what you're gonna do right there on the call. You go back and then you do more research and you put together multiple packages for them. Like how many calls do you typically have in your sales process?
Just one. So what I do is.
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay. So what I do is I have an intake form, and I know exactly where from my website they came from. So I have different packages still. I have the done for you services. I have social media management services still. That's part of what I do. And the coaching. So depending on which application they fill out, they get put into a different workflow in the CRM that I have. And I'm able to kind of have a different conversation with them on the phone. So it's not so much like you're kind of blind having a conversation like, okay, so what is it that you need? And you're having that kind of conversation. I already know what they need. I'm already looking at their website. I'm looking at their services because that's another question I have on my questionnaire. So I've already done my homework in preparing for the call. I kind of take like 10, 15 minutes before the call to make sure I soak that in, all the information, and I'm really sure of how the call is going to go. And I pre-frame it and I tell them exactly how it's going to go, what we're going to talk about, so there's like no time wasted and it kind of like falls into its place.
Dang, that's awesome. That's awesome. So what are some of your, I know you've got people coming in. Do you have like any other prospecting techniques? Like, do you have a goal of, okay, I'm going to have 5 discovery calls this week. That's going to lead to, I close 20% of my calls. Anything like that that's measurable and consistent for you? Or is a lot of it just the attraction and what comes in?
It's starting to become more that way now that I'm not sure where the video started, but it is my 3rd week staying home and doing this business. So now that thank you. So now that I have more time to analyze, I could say, okay, well, if I have 10 discovery calls per week, I close at a 25 to 50% conversion rate on my calls, then I make X. So if we think about it that way, and then maybe we work backwards even, if you have a goal of 10K, and I'm just throwing out any number, 10K, then you have to kind of work backwards in that same sense. So like, how many calls do I need because I have this conversion rate? And then because I need this many people, what do I need to do to get there? So I need to add 100 people on LinkedIn, or I need to post in 5 Facebook groups with value, or make 2 videos per week, or put a Facebook ad, which is like the easiest option of them all. Put a Facebook ad that I pay $1.70 per lead, and that gets me X. So like having those tactics, I think, is going to be a bigger part of my business, just because I have more time to actually like sit and think about these numbers now, which I love doing, by the way. So having that idea is really going to help you become a solid business owner. And it's not just like winging it, you know, it's not just like, oh, I made like 15,000 this month, I don't know how to do it again next month. It's more replicatable, and there's you know, a system to it.
Oh yeah. The longer, that we move forward, and I've, been building this, and we have the company, sustainability and scalability, everything comes down to the numbers. Those are the biggest things that I'm focusing on. Sustainability, scalability, what the numbers are. We did a big deep dive today on our accounting, really went through and seeing where everything comes in, because it's so important. You start to see patterns in the numbers that you have and the number of people that come in, and you can get to a point where you can actually start to estimate how many new sales you're going to get. This is what it takes. So that's awesome. I love that you're already getting into that and that you enjoy it. It's a very overlooked part of a lot of business owners, the numbers. It's really, and that's all that matters at the end of the day, is what do our numbers look like? Where are we going?
Yeah. So fun fact about me was, before my last job, the job before that, about 3 years ago, I was a planning assistant in a really big retailer, and we worked for huge brands like Michael Kors, Calvin Klein, Nike. So that was like the brands I managed. And what we did was we look at forecasts, and we look at what the trajectory is of the brands based off their trends from prior seasons. So we would look at this year versus last year. We would look period to date and how their sales are doing and comparing them. So all those numbers are because of what's happened in the past. And when you are able to start tallying up and making sure that you know where each dollar of your business has come in from, then you could say, all right, well, this Q2, and I'm getting like super nerdy right now, but this Q2 we did this. And I know that in Q3 and Q4, maybe in the past, it's slowed down because of the seasons, people are traveling, etc. So you know exactly like what you need to do to ramp that up to make sure that you don't get trapped in that shortcomings. So if people are traveling for Christmas or whatever, and your business takes a hit because of that, you've established a good enough cushion that you can still keep the lights on in your office, and you're not kind of struggling to pay your admins and the account managers that you have. So like you're safe.
Yeah.
And that's really important. But the only way that you could get there is by starting today, looking at your numbers, and making sure you're analyzing, this person came from this ad, or this person came from this referral. That referral, you can't count on word of mouth all the time, because that's not, you can't track that really. So how can I make sure that I'm able to track all these things so I know what's happening in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. And scaling, it becomes like the most important thing. If you're just getting started and you've only got like 1 or 2 clients or whatever, but it might not seem like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. But starting now, like you said, is so important. I wish I would have paid a bit more attention earlier on, about where things were. But yeah, as you're scaling and growing, that's like the most important thing. Where are the numbers at? What can we expect? And how do we project out? I love it.
Ramon asked, how do I get as organized as Stef?
You hang out with me.
Nice. You want to talk about your group real quick here?
Yeah, so my group is called Funnel and Grind, and you can find that by going to funnelandgrind.com. I made it super easy. And what we talk about is not only funnels and Facebook ads, but we talk about all the things that encompass your business and sales. So I know that sounds really super overview, but I make sure that, you're comfortable with sales funnels, you know what that means, you know what goes into it. We talk about being your true self, how to market yourself. Today I had a Facebook Live about productivity, because even though funnel is like this huge word and buzzword that we're using right now, it's truly something that is not only the software, like we're not just talking about ClickFunnels or lead pages, we're talking about everything that goes into that. So the social media, you talking on the phone to somebody because that's super important to close the sale, the onboarding, we're talking about the client relationship, we're talking about everything. It's not just like I need a tripwire, I need a freebie opt-in page. We're talking about everything in that group. So that's where I'll be at most of the time. That's where I hang out a lot. And the group has grown pretty fast. We actually have Todd Dickerson from ClickFunnels is in there, Liz Benny's in there. So some great names are in my group. So if you guys want to jump on in, we're in Funnel and Grind.
That's awesome. Plug. Yep, I just joined. I'm in. I also went to your website. You weren't kidding about call to actions and email lead magnets everywhere.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to go in and implement some stuff right after this call or within the next couple of days, especially that Facebook cover photo thing. I love it. We'll probably, Balls, we need to get something set up for the business, not BS thing here. Continue going. I love it. I love it. Does anyone have any questions or anything for Steph while we got her on here?
Well, let's go dig into, like, I guess to be the last of it because it's getting kind of late now. You said you did a live about productivity planning and you have a productivity planner. Can you talk a little bit about your process? I just bought the Self Journal, which is kind of, I guess, competing with the productivity planner. I'm assuming you got the productivity planner, that one? The actual? Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it's similar to that. I was doing a lot of research. I ended up picking this one. I was debating between this one and John Lee Dumas's Mastery Journal. And I picked this one. This was recommended by one of our guests last week or 2 weeks ago. So I'm just about to dive into it this weekend to kind of start setting it up. Any tips, action steps, advice, because it's not really my thing. Like, I'm not into that shit at all. But I feel I'll get more done if I do.
So what I talked about was I used to suffer from analysis paralysis. And what that means is you think about all these different scenarios, all the things you should be doing, what that person's doing, why I'm not doing it. You're just confusing yourself. And at the end, you're not actually doing anything. And you're just sitting there and days go by, weeks go by, and your to-do list just gets longer and longer and longer. You think you need to be on Snapchat, Periscope, all the things, and you're just like, oh, but she's making more money and blah, blah, blah. So like I talked about how to stop that and how to basically cut off Facebook. I know that this is our lifeblood and how we make our money, but I'm guilty of this too. I will scroll for hours and then I'll notice that I'm doing it. I'm like, what have I done for the past like 4 hours? There's no like Netflix and all this stuff. I just sit there on Facebook just scrolling and it's addictive. So what I've done to kind of combat that is I put a blocker on Google Chrome, and it's kind of like, you know, those like you block your kids from like watching porn or whatever, like that's kind of the same concept, but I'm blocking Facebook, Instagram, all the social media apps from my Chrome MacBook thing. So I talked about that, and I am super big on Post-its, but it's been really bad for me because I used to have like a whole wall full of Post-its in my old desk area, and I would think like, oh yeah, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at, you know, what I should be doing, but I also stopped looking at it because I would get like anxiety just watching my wall full of Post-its. So that never helped me actually get any work done. So what I have done to kind of mitigate that and actually get back to not being so stressed out and looking at my to-do list was getting the productivity planner. And how that's helped is a concept called the Pomodoro technique. And what that is, a Pomodoro is a kitchen timer. It looks like a tomato. Pomodoro means tomato in Italian. And the guy who got influenced by that, it was a kitchen timer, and he would set it to 25 minutes. And he would just do one thing at a time. So it's anti-multitasking. This is like the anti of that. You would do one thing for 25 minutes, block out all distractions, put your phone away, close off Facebook, just do your thing. And then once the 25 minutes is up, then, you know, go stretch, go outside, meditate, whatever you want to do for 5 minutes. and then you come back, and then you do another set of Pomodoro for another 25 minutes. So the productivity planner helps, and I'll show a page. I don't know if you guys could see it, but it tells you this block right here is like how many Pomodoros it is, and then how many you need to complete it, and then how many you ended up doing. So for me this week, I was working on my webinar, and it's taking me a long time to do research, to put pictures together, do the slides. So it'll take me a good chunk of my day, if not the whole day. So maybe I'll say the research part of the webinar is going to take me 4 Pomodoros, so 4 25-minute intervals. And then once I'm done with that, I'll move on to the next thing, which is the secondary task. The most important thing goes on top, which is usually the scariest thing that you have on your to-do list. We all have them, the things that make us nervous. So first I do the research, then I could, fix my emails sequences they're kind of like jacked up right now, or fix the buttons on my ClickFunnels funnel pages that stopped working, etc. And then keeping track again with those Pomodoros. But what's helped me the most is kind of gamifying it, like turning it into an activity or a game that I'm looking forward to, versus just like mindlessly working, because it becomes so tedious to me sometimes to go to work. But like if I have something that's like a timer and I'm like, ooh, 25 minutes, like how much time is left? Okay, I could do it. It turns it into something exciting. And I don't know, maybe I'm just like a nerd, but that's kind of how I see it. And then at the end, you have a productivity score. So it says, how productive were you today on a scale of 1 to 10? So you could look back on what you've done, and you could say, maybe I was a 5. Like I was in the kitchen too much eating snacks, or I turned on Maury because it was like 11 o'clock and that's what I watch when I'm home. You know what I'm saying? So like, how could I do better tomorrow? And not really beating yourself up about it, because that's something that I had to overcome. I worked corporate. So in corporate, you had to work 8 hours, and like, I don't care if you're not actually working on anything, you still like move your mouse and like pretend like you're working. So I was still in that mindset, like, oh, I didn't do anything for 3 hours. I feel really bad. I should like pretend like I'm working. But as an entrepreneur, like you can't do that, because you need to actually work to get money, right? You actually need to put in the effort, and you need to make money making activities for you to get paid. So it's not like I could just sit at my corporate job for 8 hours and not do a thing and still get my paycheck. No, that doesn't work here. So that's helped me as well, because I used to beat myself up and say, oh, I didn't work like for 5 hours, or I took a nap, or I could do, you know what I'm saying? Like if you work more efficiently, you don't need to work 8 hours. You could cut your day to 4 hours a day and go outside and be with your family and do more important things, like actually socialize, and still get work done. So that's helped me a lot.
No, that's awesome. Any little tips that can, help improve things. I definitely am familiar with the Pomodoro technique, and we used to do 50 on, 10 off, as far as getting it going and just attacking stuff. Just do something. I don't know. That's always my big thing. Just do something. And I like how you brought up the wasting 3 hours a day at, corporate jobs. So that happens everywhere, all across the country. It literally doesn't do entrepreneurs any good whatsoever. Like, that's for damn sure. Just do anything. It's better than nothing. Start taking action. I'm of the belief that, when you're in motion, object in motion tends to stay in motion. You build momentum with it. So I love it.
Okay. Christian said I've actually grabbed my phone and opened Facebook while I have Facebook open on my desktop.
Yeah. One of the things that is, I unfollowed just about everybody, so that the only thing that shows up in my feed ever is marketing groups or people talking about marketing. Like if I ever see anyone talk about politics in my Facebook feed or anything about the freaking, just anything stupid, they're instantly unfollowed. Still friends, everyone on there, but all I want to do, when I go on Facebook, I want to be learning something, and that's it. I don't care about anything else. I'll text or call whoever friends are. So that's been a huge tip for me.
Oh, Mackenzie said she planned out her day the other day at the beginning of the day and realized I take a lot longer than I planned to get some tasks done. Do you ever run into that? Like, hey, I'm going to block out an hour to do this, and then an hour's gone and you're still not even halfway through?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I think my excuse is I'm researching. So I'll admit I'll have the blocker up on Facebook and I'll unblock it so I could do research. But really, I'm just like copy stalking people and seeing what other people have done for their funnels. And I'm like, I could do it myself. I already know all the things that I need to do and I have the words in my brain. I just need to do it. Like when we were in school and we were growing up, we didn't have the internet. I know I'm like dating myself here, but like I didn't have the internet so I could like look up and Google what I'm about to say. Like I had to use my brain and I had to use my creativity. So it's kind of going back to that, and it's going back to not feeling the need to go on Facebook to find every answer or go on Google or check your email for other people's emails that they sent you. So that's kind of what I've been encountering, especially today, because I spent like 4 hours working on a webinar that I've been working for like 2 weeks already. So it's like, just get it done. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to like find the right words to say. Just like put it out there in the world and like stop it.
Content. Yeah. The first shit, the way I got my first clients over here was by sending custom prospect videos. I don't know if you're familiar with Billy Jean. Learned that method from him. Game changer. Either way, it took hours to put these videos together, and I just kept reshooting them for like a 6-minute video. Then finally, I just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna put them out. There was mistakes. I wasn't saying right. Sent out 20 emails, got 2 clients, and then boom. And we've just been off to the races ever since. So yeah, just get your shit out there. Like it's human when you make mistakes or you know say something different. It doesn't sound as scripted and as bad, especially for some of the video content. So I love it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm the worst because I did a 3-part video series, and I'm like, I need to record the whole thing again. I'm like, why though? It's fine. Like I'm gonna waste time building the script out. I already did it once, and I kind of like had 3 bullet points written out, and I just like went off with it. I'm gonna transcribe everything I said and then say it perfectly and cut it and edit it and probably outsource it to someone else for them to do it. Like no. So I was like, just stop.
Nice. Well, any last words or thoughts here, Stefs? Thank you so much for coming on. Anyone else, if you got any more questions, anything you want to say to people who are getting started, getting going, and everyone, I'm sure so many people want to be in your shoes, you know, being able to quit their job. Any thoughts?
My number one thing for you guys is to just do it. Like you don't have to stay in the same position for your whole life. I started off as a social media manager. I pivoted and changed, and now I'm where I am now. I'm happy with the clients I have. I fired the ones I didn't want. I stopped undervaluing myself. I doubled my prices. I'm going to double them again. Like, just do the damn thing and get it out there into the world already.
I love it. Burn the fucking boats. You know what I mean? Just burn them. Jump off a cliff. When you jump first, it's open.
Christian,
exactly.
What's your first line on those custom videos to get their attention?
That's for you, Nick.
Me? Oh, what's my what now? Sorry, I was trying to look at the page of the question.
What's your first line on those custom videos to get their attention?
The subject line?
I don't know what he means on the custom.
The subject line, I used to just do Facebook ads and make it seem like it was a reply. And for the introduction, I would actually address the business owner personally. At first I was doing fully custom. So I'd be like, hey, Dr. XYZ, blah, 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 and open it up that way. I made it very, very personal. I did not take a spam approach. It was very, very directed, targeted marketing that I was doing. Cool.
All right.
Yeah, all right, Steph. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. That was awesome. I'm literally going to do it.
It was fun times.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to connect offline too and chat further. I love to hear what you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Follow Steph. Go to funnelingbride.com. There's a link somewhere in those comments. Join her group. A lot of good stuff in there. I do watch it from time to time. I make a like or I'll make a comment. Yeah, it's a great group. Definitely join it. She's using the productivity planner. I put a link to that. I'm using the self-journal. I haven't used it yet, but I will be using the self-journal. I feel it's important, so we'll talk about that another day. Thanks a lot, Steph, for coming on. People who are watching, if you're watching on the page, make sure you join the group. If you're watching in the group, make sure you like the page, and we'll talk later. Thank you. Bye.